He
Don't
said
leave me.
Boston. The
Emily,
boarding pass
please.
said Miami.
We have
That
to go,
one lie,
Scott.
it destroyed
It's
everything.
gonna be okay.
Emily Walker, 32, 6 months pregnant, found that boarding pass on a Tuesday night. By Friday, she discovered her husband hadn't just cheated. He'd stolen $50,000 in her name, maxed out their credit cards to $48,000, bought his pregnant mistress a $4,000 Tiffany ring, and spent 18 months building a paper trail to frame her for federal crimes he committed. She had no job, no money, no way out. He had cameras in their home. He deleted her evidence. He threatened to have her declared mentally incompetent and take her children. She was trapped. Until her sister made one phone call and said, "The UK doesn't extradite for debt fraud. Can you get to the airport by Monday morning?" What happened next at Newark Airport Terminal B, when Scott's credit cards declined one by one while he screamed through security glass, is the most satisfying thing you'll hear today. This is how a broke, pregnant woman escaped to a country her abuser literally couldn't afford to follow her to. Stay until the end. You'll want to cheer. That night, the rain came down in thin, cold lines across the windows of our Jersey City condo, and the whole place felt smaller than usual, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I stood in the hallway with one hand resting on my 6-month pregnant belly, watching my husband Scott zip up his leather carry-on bag with the kind of practiced efficiency that comes from doing something many times before. The hallway mirror caught his reflection as he checked himself one more time. I noticed the fresh haircut first, not the usual $25 trim from the barbershop down on Montgomery Street, but the kind of precision cut that cost $200 from that place in Tribeca he'd mentioned wanting to try. His hair was styled perfectly, not a strand out of place, and as he turned his head slightly to check the sides, I caught the scent of cologne. New cologne, something sharp and oceanic that I'd never smelled on him before, completely different from the Armani Code he'd been wearing for the past 3 years. The designer luggage in his hand looked brand new too. Black leather with brass hardware, still had those little protective stickers on the corners that people forget to peel off. I'd never seen this bag before. We had luggage, a mismatched set we'd bought at Target when we got married 7 years ago, scuffed and practical. This bag probably cost more than our entire set combined. "Emergency client meeting in Boston," Scott said, and his voice had that quality I'd started to notice over the past few months. Too smooth, too rehearsed, like he'd practiced the words in front of a mirror. Richardson Industries is threatening to pull their portfolio, $4.2 million. Marcus called me an hour ago, completely panicked. "I have to handle this personally, face to face. You know how these big clients are. They want to see you sweat a little before they decide to stay." He still wouldn't look me in the eye. He kept fiddling with his watch, that $15,000 Rolex Submariner he'd bought himself last year as a bonus gift, even though I'd been asking him for 3 months to please just fix the washing machine that kept flooding our bathroom floor. My daughter Lily padded out of her bedroom in her princess pajamas, the pink ones with Elsa and Anna that she refused to take off even for washing. At 3 years old, with her father's dark hair and my green eyes, she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever created. She rubbed her eyes sleepily and looked up at Scott with complete trust and adoration. "Daddy, where are you going?" Scott's face softened as he bent down to her level. He kissed her forehead, but it was quick, distracted, his mind already somewhere else. "Daddy has to go to work, Princess. Be good for Mommy, okay? I'll bring you back something special from Boston." Another lie I would realize later. He never brought her anything. He stood up, barely touched my shoulder as he passed. No kiss, no lingering goodbye, no hand on my pregnant belly to feel his son kick. Just a distant, "I'll call you," from the hotel. I wanted to say something. Wanted to ask why he needed new cologne for a business trip. Wanted to ask about the expensive luggage. Wanted to ask why he'd bothered to get a $200 haircut at 8 o'clock at night before an emergency morning flight. But something stopped me. Some instinct whispered, "Stay quiet. Don't let him know you're noticing. Watch and wait." The door clicked shut behind him, and the silence that followed felt heavy and oppressive, like something living and breathing in the space he'd left behind. I walked to the window, watched him climb into a rideshare, a black SUV, not the usual Uber, and the taillights glowed red against the wet street as they pulled away. My baby kicked hard, as if sensing the spike in my heartbeat, the adrenaline flooding my system. I put both hands on my belly and whispered, "I know, baby. I know something's wrong too." That's when I saw it. A small white rectangle on the floor by the coat rack, half hidden under the edge of the doormat. A boarding pass, fallen from his jacket pocket when he'd grabbed his coat in a hurry. My hands trembled as I bent down to pick it up. The paper was still warm from being in his pocket. Delta Airlines Newark to Miami departure. Tonight, November 23rd, 11:35 p.m. Passenger Scott M. Walker, not Boston. Miami, I stood there in our hallway, the boarding pass trembling between my fingers, and felt my entire world tilt sideways on its axis. The rain kept falling outside. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. Lily called out from her bedroom asking for water. Everything was normal. Everything was exactly the same as it had been 5 minutes ago, except nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't call him, didn't text, didn't confront. Something deep in my gut, some primal survival instinct whispered, "Stay quiet. Gather evidence. Don't let him know you know. The moment he realizes you're onto him, he'll adapt, he'll cover his tracks, he'll turn it around and make you the crazy one." I felt my unborn son kick again, harder this time, and I tucked the boarding pass into my pocket and whispered to my pregnant belly, "I'm not protecting a marriage anymore. Baby, I'm protecting you. I'm protecting your sister. Whatever comes next, that's what I'm doing now." I got Lily her water, tucked her back into bed, read her 3 more pages of Goodnight Moon, even though my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the book. Then I went to our bedroom, climbed into the bed I shared with a man who was at this very moment boarding a plane to Miami instead of Boston, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning started like any other, which somehow made it worse. I woke at 6:15 to my alarm, the same alarm that had been going off at 6:15 every morning for 3 years. I made Lily breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, cut into triangles the way she liked. I got her dressed in her favorite purple leggings and the unicorn shirt with the sparkly horn. I packed her lunchbox with a peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, and those organic fruit snacks that cost twice as much as regular ones, but that Scott always said we couldn't really afford. We drove to Little Scholars Preschool on Grove Street, and I watched her run inside with our backpack bouncing, completely unaware that her mother's entire world had cracked open the night before. She turned at the door, waved, shouted, "Bye, Mommy," and disappeared into the classroom where Miss Rachel was setting up the morning art project. I drove back to the condo in complete silence. No music, no podcasts, no NPR news, just the sound of my own breathing and the occasional kick from the baby growing inside me, reminding me that I had 7 more weeks until my due date and no idea how I was going to survive them. At home, I stood in the kitchen and stared at the coffee machine as it gurgled and hissed, brewing the same coffee it brewed every morning. Scott's favorite mug sat in the dish rack, the one that said "World's Best Dad" that Lily had picked out for Father's Day last year. The mug was stained brown at the bottom from years of coffee, and I stared at it and thought about how many lies that mug had witnessed, how many mornings Scott had drunk from it while texting Chloe, or planning his Miami trips, or figuring out how to steal money in my name. I opened Instagram while standing at the counter, pumping breast milk for the new baby. I'd started pumping early, building up a freezer stash, trying to be prepared and responsible, even though my marriage was apparently built on quicksand. The phone felt heavy in my hand as I scrolled through my feed mindlessly. Recipe videos, baby products, someone's new kitchen renovation, a friend's vacation photos from somewhere tropical and beautiful. Then I saw it. Jason Mitchell, one of Scott's coworkers at Hartwell and Pierce Financial, had posted 6 hours ago. 6 hours ago would have been around midnight, which meant he'd posted right after whatever event had happened in Miami. The location tag read, "Fontainebleau, Miami Beach." My breath caught in my throat so suddenly that I choked a little, had to cough and steady myself against the counter. The photo showed a group of colleagues at a rooftop bar, the kind of place where cocktails cost $25 and you pay for the view as much as the alcohol. Champagne glasses raised in a toast. Golden hour light painting everything warm and beautiful and expensive. 5 people in the photo all dressed like they were celebrating something big. I zoomed in with shaking fingers that didn't quite feel like my own anymore. There, in the center of the photo, unmistakable, even in the slightly blurry shot, Scott's Rolex Submariner. That watch caught the light in a very specific way. The blue dial and the silver bracelet that I'd watched him polish obsessively every Sunday morning while watching football. And right next to his wrist, close enough to be intimate, was a woman's hand. Red manicured nails, perfectly done. The kind of professional manicure that costs $60 plus tip. Expensive rings on her fingers, not wedding rings, but the kind of statement jewelry that young professional women wear to look successful. My heart was pounding so hard now that I could hear it in my ears, could feel my pulse in my throat. I clicked through to see who was tagged in the photo. 6 people tagged. I recognized most of them, colleagues from Scott's firm, people I'd met at holiday parties and summer barbecues. And then, Chloe Bennett. I clicked on her profile with a finger that was trembling so badly I almost missed. Chloe Bennett, 26 years old, marketing associate at Hartwell and Pierce Financial. I'd met her exactly twice, once at the Christmas party last year where she'd been friendly and bubbly and had complimented my dress, and once at a summer cookout where she'd played with Lily for 20 minutes and I'd thought, what a sweet girl. Her profile was public, no privacy settings. I scrolled through her recent posts and each one felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. 3 days ago, a photo from an infinity pool, her reflection perfect in the turquoise water, Miami skyline in the background. Caption, best weekend ever with a pink heart emoji. 43 likes, comments from her friends, gorgeous babe, and who's the lucky guy? And spill the tea. 2 days ago, a close-up of 4 champagne glasses clinking together, bubbles catching the sunset light. Caption, to new beginnings with a sparkle emoji. Someone had commented, new beginnings? Tell us everything. She'd replied with just a winking emoji. 1 day ago, a sunset photo taken from a balcony, and in the reflection of her sunglasses, I had to zoom in to be sure. Had to look 3 times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was a man's face, dark hair, sharp jawline, Scott's face. I took screenshots of everything with hands that were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Screenshot after screenshot after screenshot, backing them up to my cloud storage, to my email, to everywhere I could think of, because some part of me already knew I would need evidence. I would need proof. He would deny everything, and I would need to be able to show that I wasn't crazy. Then I set my phone down on the counter before I threw it across the room. The breast pump kept making its rhythmic sucking sound, mechanical and indifferent to the fact that my life was imploding. I stared at the wall, at the calendar hanging there with Lily's preschool schedule and my prenatal appointments, and Scott's business trips marked in his neat handwriting. He lauded about Boston. He was in Miami with a 26-year-old woman from his office. While I was home alone, 6 months pregnant with his son, taking care of his daughter, he was drinking champagne and taking sunset photos and starting new beginnings with someone else. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call him right now and demand answers. But instead, I just sat there, numb and cold, until the breast pump timer beeped to tell me the session was over. I stored the milk in the fridge in bags labeled with today's date. Then I walked to the kitchen drawer, the one Scott always told me not to worry about. I handle the bills, Em. You focus on Lily and the baby. That's our division of labor, remember? I make the money, you make the home. I pulled the drawer open. Inside was a stack of unopened envelopes, some of them bright red with final notice, stamped across the front in aggressive block letters. The pile was at least 2 inches high. How long had these been sitting here? How long had Scott been hiding them from me? I picked up the first one with numb fingers. Jersey City Medical Center. Final collection. Notice amount due. $2,847. This was from Lily's emergency room visit last month when she'd spiked a fever of 104 degrees in the middle of the night, and I'd panicked and called an ambulance. I remembered sitting in that ER at 3 in the morning, holding my terrified daughter, while a kind nurse assured me that kids spike fevers all the time and she'd be fine. Scott had shown up an hour later, annoyed at being woken up, and I'd felt guilty for worrying him. The insurance had denied the claim. I didn't even know that. Scott had never mentioned it. The next envelope, PSE&G Electric, 60 days overdue, service disconnection warning. We were about to lose power, and I had no idea. The next one, Dr. Patricia Okafor, OBGYN, outstanding balance $1,200. No further appointments until paid in full. I had an ultrasound scheduled for next week. They were going to cancel it. My baby was measuring small according to the last visit, and they had wanted to check his growth, and I wouldn't be able to go because Scott hadn't paid the bill. Capital One, minimum payment $890, 47 days past due. Verizon, service interruption notice. Property management, rent payment 2 weeks overdue, late fees applied. I sank to the kitchen floor right there, my pregnant belly making it awkward, bills scattered around me like autumn leaves. They drifted across the tile, white and red and menacing. Evidence of a financial crisis I'd known nothing about. Scott's recent words echoed in my head, playing on repeat. Money's tight, Em. We need to cut back. Do you really need those organic groceries? They're twice as expensive as regular ones. Do you really need to buy Lily new shoes when her old ones still fit? Do we really need another baby right now? I mean, I'm excited, of course I am, but the timing is just, it's not ideal financially. He'd said all of this while making $180,000 a year, while spending $3,847 on a 3-night hotel suite in Miami, while buying $4,223 worth of jewelry at Tiffany's, while taking his mistress to $800 dinners. I sat on the cold tile floor with my hand on my pregnant belly, surrounded by evidence of his lies, and I whispered to no one, what did I do wrong? When did I become the kind of woman this happens to? The baby kicked softly, gently, as if trying to answer. As if trying to say, this isn't your fault. This was never your fault. But I didn't believe it yet. I sat there until my legs went numb, until Lily would need to be picked up from preschool, until the morning had bled into afternoon and I realized I'd been sitting on the kitchen floor for almost 3 hours, just staring at bills and trying to understand how my life had become this unrecognizable thing. That evening, after I'd picked up Lily from preschool and made her dinner and given her a bath and read her stories and tucked her into bed with her stuffed lamb, after I'd gone through all the motions of being a mother while feeling like a ghost in my own life, I finally had time to really look. Scott was still supposedly in Boston. He'd texted around 3 in the afternoon. Meeting running longer than expected. These Richardson people are being completely unreasonable. Might be here another day. Miss you and Lily, love you. The lies sat between us like broken glass, sharp and dangerous and cutting, even transmitted through a phone screen. I waited until I was sure Lily was deeply asleep. Then I carried my old MacBook Air to the kitchen table and opened it with trembling hands. The laptop screen glowed like a lighthouse in the dark apartment, the only light except for the street lamps outside filtering through our windows. I opened our joint Chase bank account for the first time in probably 8 months, maybe longer. Scott had always insisted on handling the finances. It's my job, babe. I'm good with money. That's why people pay me to manage their investments. You focus on Lily and the baby, I'll focus on keeping us financially stable. That's how we work best as a team. The password still worked. Our anniversary date, October 15th. I'd thought that was romantic when he'd first set it up. Now the irony burned like acid. What I found destroyed me completely. The checking account showed a current balance of $347.82. $347. My hands froze on the keyboard as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. That couldn't be right. It had to be a mistake, a glitch in the website, something wrong with the bank system. But it wasn't a mistake. Scott's last paycheck had been deposited 2 weeks ago, $7,834 after taxes. Direct deposit, same as every 2 weeks, same as it had been for the past 5 years he'd worked at Hartwell and Pierce. That money should still be there, plus whatever we'd had left over from the previous paycheck. Where had $12,000 gone in 2 weeks? I clicked on the transaction history with a finger that didn't quite feel like my own anymore, like I was controlling my body from very far away. The list of transactions made my stomach turn. November 18th, ATM withdrawal, $500. Location, Miami Beach. November 18th, purchase, $3,847. Fontainebleau, Miami Beach. November 17th, purchase, $4,223. Tiffany and Company, Fifth Avenue, New York. November 19th, purchase, $847.92. Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse, Miami. November 20th, purchase, $2,650. Louis Vuitton, Aventura Mall, Miami. November 20th, ATM withdrawal, $300. Location, Miami Beach. November 21st, purchase, $612. American Airlines in-flight purchases and upgrades. I clicked on the Tiffany purchase with shaking hands, downloaded the receipt PDF that was helpfully attached. Item, Tiffany Celeste Cushion Cut Engagement Ring, 1.5 carat, platinum setting with micro-pave diamonds. Price, $4,223. I looked down at my own left hand at the engagement ring Scott had given me 7 years ago. It was simple, beautiful in its simplicity, a half-carat round diamond in a white gold setting. We'd bought it from a small jeweler in Brooklyn, a family-owned place where the old man behind the counter had shown us dozens of options in our price range. Scott had saved for 3 months to afford the $1,200 it cost. He'd proposed to me during a picnic in Prospect Park on a sunny October afternoon, nervous and sweet and genuine, his hands shaking as he opened the box. Or at least, that's what I'd thought. Now he'd bought someone else a ring worth $4,200. A ring with a bigger diamond, a fancier setting from Tiffany's instead of a family jeweler in Brooklyn. I clicked back to the main account page, feeling like I might vomit. Our savings account was next, $89.14. 6 months ago, we'd had $23,400 in that account. I knew because I checked it back in May when I'd been planning for the new baby's nursery furniture, mentally calculating what we could afford for a crib and a changing table and a rocking chair. I'd thought, we're doing okay, we're stable, we can handle another baby. Gone. $23,000 gone. I clicked on the credit card tab, and this is when true panic set in. Chase Sapphire Reserve balance, $28,450 credit limit, $30,000 available credit, $1,550, minimum payment due, $1,234, days past, Duco, 47. We were maxed out. 91% utilized on a $30,000 credit card, which meant we were destroying our credit score, and we were 47 days late on payments. I scrolled through the charges, and they painted a picture of a life I didn't recognize. Louis Vuitton, $2,650. Tiffany, $4,223. Del Frisco's Steakhouse, $847.92. Fontainebleau, Miami Beach, $3,847 for 3 nights. STK Steakhouse Manhattan, $734. Saks Fifth Avenue, $1,892. Nobu Downtown, $623.50. The list went on and on, a catalog of expenses for a lifestyle we didn't live. Or rather, a lifestyle Scott lived without me. The American Express Gold Card was even worse. $19,877 out of a $20,000 limit. Minimum payment $890, 47 days past due. I couldn't breathe. The kitchen felt like it was closing in around me. I stood up from the table, walked to the sink, turned on the cold water and splashed it on my face and again until my shirt was soaked and my face was numb. Then I saw it, the email, sitting in my inbox, unread, from 3 weeks ago. I'd probably missed it in the chaos of chasing after Lily and dealing with third trimester exhaustion and doctor's appointments. From Priority Financial Solutions, subject, your loan application approved. My stomach dropped so far, it felt like it had fallen through the floor. I clicked on the email with a hand that was shaking so badly I almost couldn't control the mouse. Dear Emily, Catherine Walker, congratulations. Your personal loan application has been approved. Our team was impressed with your strong credit history and stable employment. Loan amount, $50,000. An interest rate, 18.99% APR term, 60 months. Monthly payment, $1,278. First payment, due December 15th. Funds have been disbursed to your designated bank account ending in 7743. Please allow 1 to 2 business days for the transfer to complete. Thank you for choosing Priority Financial Solutions for your lending needs. I read it 3 times before my brain could process what it was saying. I had never heard of Priority Financial Solutions. I had never applied for any loan. I certainly had never applied for a $50,000 loan. But according to this email, I had done exactly that, and the money had been deposited into an account ending in 7743. I searched frantically through our bank accounts, looking for those numbers. Checking account, no. Savings account, no. Credit cards, no. Then I remembered. Years ago, when Scott and I had first gotten married and were trying to be financially responsible, we'd opened a second savings account with a Chase for emergency funds. We'd used it for maybe 6 months, then forgotten about it. Let it sit dormant with like $50 in it, never touched it again. I logged into it and now, hands shaking so badly I could barely type. Account ending in 7743. Transaction history showed November 3rd, deposit $50,000, Priority Financial Solutions. November 4th, withdrawal $50,000, transfer to Scott and Walker personal checking account. He'd stolen $50,000 in my name and transferred it all to himself in less than 24 hours. I called Priority Financial from the kitchen floor where I'd collapsed at some point. The clock on the microwave said 11:47 p.m. I didn't care. The customer service line was open 24 hours. The phone rang 4 times, 5 times. I almost hung up. Then a cheerful male voice answered, Priority Financial Solutions. This is Robert speaking. How can I help you this evening? My voice came out as barely a whisper. Hi, I received an email about a loan approval, but I never applied for anything. There must be some kind of mistake. I need to report fraud. I'm sorry to hear you're having concerns, ma'am. Let me pull up your account. What's your name, please? Emily Walker. Emily Catherine Walker. I heard the clicking of a keyboard, then, yes, Mrs. Walker, I have your account right here, loan number 5508-2291, approved November 2nd, funds disbursed November 3rd. But I didn't apply for any loan. Ma'am, I'm looking at your application right now. We have your complete information. Social Security number ending in 4567, date of birth, March 14th, 1993, driver's license number. How do you have all that? You provided it in your application, ma'am, along with employment verification, pay stubs, bank statements, digital signature. What employment? My voice cracked and I was almost crying now. I don't work. I haven't worked in 3 years. I'm a stay-at-home mom. There was a pause. Your application states you're the owner and creative director of Walker Design Consulting, with an annual income of $85,000. You submitted a letter from your business on company letterhead, as well as 3 months of business bank statements showing consistent deposits. My vision blurred. That's not real. That company doesn't exist. I don't have a business. I haven't worked since my daughter was born 3 years ago. Someone stole my identity. This is fraud. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but I need to inform you that we take fraudulent fraud claims very seriously. If you're claiming that you didn't apply for this loan, you'll need to file a police report and submit it to our fraud investigation department along with supporting documentation. However, I should warn you that making a false fraud claim is a federal offense and can result in criminal charges. I'm not making a false claim. I'm telling you someone forged. Ma'am, we have your digital signature on file. We have your driver's license scan. We have photos of you holding your license next to your face for identity verification. We have your employment documentation. Everything was verified through our standard processes. If you truly believe this is fraud, you'll need to prove that someone else had access to all of this personal information and was able to impersonate you so thoroughly that they passed our verification checks. I couldn't speak, couldn't form words. My mind was spinning. Photos of me holding my license? How did he get photos of me holding my license? Then I remembered. 2 months ago, Scott had asked me to hold my license and smile for a photo. He'd said something about needing to update my information for his company's benefits system, for emergency contacts or health insurance or something. I'd been cooking dinner, had barely paid attention, had just picked up my license from the counter and smiled while he snapped a picture with his phone. He'd been planning this for months. "Ma'am, are you still there?" "Yes," I whispered. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "No." I hung up before he could say anything else. I crawled to the bathroom and vomited into the toilet, heaving until there was nothing left in my stomach, until I was just dry heaving and crying and shaking. When I finally had the strength to lift my head, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. Mascara streaked down my face in black rivers, skin pale as paper, hair a mess. I looked like a ghost of the woman I'd been that morning. And that's when the full weight of it all crashed down on me. Scott had forged my signature on a $50,000 loan application. He had created a fake company using my name and identity. He had stolen photos of me to verify the loan application. He had faked business bank statements and pay stubs. He had committed massive identity theft and fraud, and he had done it all in my name, making me legally responsible for $50,000 plus 18.99% interest that I never borrowed and couldn't possibly repay. I was 6 months pregnant with his child. I had a 3-year-old daughter who depended on me. I had no job, no recent work experience, no income of my own. I had $436 in checking and $89 in savings. All our credit cards were maxed out. We were behind on rent, behind on utilities, behind on medical bills. And my husband, the man I'd promised to love and honor and build a life with, had just destroyed me financially, stolen my identity, and committed federal crimes in my name, all while sleeping with a woman 10 years younger and taking her on vacation to Miami. I slid down the bathroom wall to the floor, pulled my knees up to my chest as much as my pregnant belly would allow, and whispered to the tile floor, "How did I become this stupid? How did I not see this coming? What is wrong with me?" But there was no answer. Just the drip of the bathroom faucet that needed to be fixed, the hum of traffic outside, and the sound of my own breathing as I tried not to fall completely apart. Because I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. I had 2 children depending on me. So I pulled myself up off the bathroom floor, splashed cold water on my face again, and went back to the kitchen to document everything before Scott could delete it or hide it or make it disappear. I took screenshots of every bank account, every credit card statement, every transaction, every bill. I downloaded PDFs. I forwarded emails to my personal Gmail account that Scott didn't have access to. I backed everything up to cloud storage. And I worked until the sun came up. The next evening, Scott came home cheerful, carrying a Dunkin' Donuts bag like it was some kind of grand gesture. Cheap coffee and day-old donuts after spending thousands of dollars in Miami. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. "How are my girls? Did you miss Daddy?" Lily squealed with delight because of course she did. She was 3 and she loved her father unconditionally and had no idea what kind of man he really was. She ran to him full speed and he scooped her up, swung her around, kissed her cheeks, set her down gently. Then he looked at me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, a smile that I now recognized as the smile of a predator who thought his prey was still oblivious. "How was Boston?" I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral, playing the role of the trusting wife who believed everything he said. Exhausting, honestly. That client was a real nightmare. Gerald Richardson is one of the most difficult men I've ever dealt with, but we managed to save the account, kept the $4.2 million in assets under management. Marcus was relieved. He was ready to just let them walk. He was already scrolling through his phone as he talked, checking messages, his attention divided like I wasn't even worth his full focus. I wanted to scream at him, wanted to throw the Miami boarding pass in his face, show him the bank statements, demand to know who Chloe was and why he'd bought her a $4,000 ring. But I didn't. Something told me to wait, to be smart about this, to gather more evidence before confronting him, because I had a feeling that once he knew I was onto him, he would do something drastic. That night after Scott fell asleep beside me, Actually had the audacity to fall asleep next to me after everything he'd done. I crept out of bed at 2 in the morning and locked myself in the bathroom with my phone. I opened a burner email account I'd created, one Scott didn't know about. Then I texted him from the bathroom. Honey, can you call me when you get a chance? I'm really worried about these medical bills. The doctor's office left another message today. I sent it at 2:14 in the morning, knowing he'd see it first thing when he woke up. Sure enough, at 6:47 in the morning, while I was in the kitchen making Lily breakfast, my phone rang. Scott calling from the gym where he went every morning before work. Hey, what's wrong? You sounded stressed in your text. I'm in the middle of a workout. I hit record on the voice memos app that I'd already opened and ready. Scott, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're busy, say, but I looked at the bank account yesterday and there's only $347. Where's your paycheck? Where did all the money go? I heard him sigh, that particular sigh he did when he thought I was being unreasonable. Emily, I told you not to look at that stuff. It stresses you out and stress isn't good for the baby. I'm handling it. That's my job, remember? But honey, we can't pay Lily's hospital bill. Jersey City Medical Center sent another collection notice. Jesus Christ, Em. His voice was getting louder now, irritated. You're supposed to be resting, not worrying about bills. That's my responsibility. That's what I work 70 hours a week for, so you can stay home with Lily and not have to worry about this stuff. I just don't understand where the money went. It went to bills. It went to rent. It went to keeping this family afloat. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to support a family of 3 on one income? Soon to be 4. Do you know how much pressure I'm under? Scott, I'm not trying to pressure you. I just want to understand. What about the loan? The $50,000 from Priority Financial. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear gym equipment in the background, someone counting reps, hip-hop music playing faintly. What loan? His voice had changed, become more careful. The one in my name, the one from Priority Financial Solutions. I got an email. Oh, that, he laughed, but it sounded forced. Emily, that was for us, for the baby, medical expenses. Hospital bills are going to be astronomical, you know that. And with your doctor saying the baby's measuring small, there might be complications, might need NICU time. I had to move fast because the interest rate they were offering was expiring. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. But you forged my signature. You created a fake company. I didn't forge anything. We're married, Em. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. That's how marriage works. I was being proactive, protecting our family, making sure we're financially prepared for what's coming. Scott, it's fraud. It's not fraud. It's marriage. It's called taking care of your family. God, Emily, do you hear yourself? You're so ungrateful. I work myself to death to trying to provide for you and Lily, trying to make sure you can stay home and not work, trying to give you the life you want. And this is what I get? Accusations? Interrogations? Like I'm some kind of criminal? I'm not saying you're a criminal. No, you want to control me. You want to micromanage every single thing I do. You can't stand that I handle the finances because it means you're not in control. Well, guess what, Em? You can't handle money. You've never been good with money. That's why I took over in the first place, remember? Because you were the one who overdrafted our account 3 times in 1 month when we first got married. That was true. 7 years ago, I'd been terrible with money, fresh out of college, and not understanding how bank accounts work properly. But Scott was using it against me now, weaponizing my past mistakes to justify current lies. And you know what else? He continued, his voice rising. You're 6 months pregnant. Your hormones are all over the place. You're emotional and irrational, and you're not thinking clearly. Dr. Okafor told me at your last appointment that prenatal anxiety can cause paranoid thinking. Maybe you should talk to her about getting on something to help you calm down. She didn't say that. She did, Em. She pulled me aside after your appointment. She's worried about you. I'm worried about you. You're not yourself lately. You're suspicious and paranoid and seeing problems where there aren't any. That's not normal, honey. That's not healthy. I felt my grip on reality starting to wobble. But I saw the bank statements. Yeah, you saw numbers. Do you understand what those numbers mean? Do you understand cash flow and asset allocation and expense management? Or did you just see a low balance and panic because you don't actually understand how money works? Scott, I'm not stupid. I never said you were stupid. I said you don't understand finance. That's not the same thing. You're smart in other ways. You're an amazing mother. You're creative. You're caring. But money isn't your strength, babe. You know that. That's why we made the agreement that I handle it. So you don't have to stress about things you're not good at. My voice came out as barely a whisper. I just want to understand what's happening. What's happening is that I'm busting my ass to take care of this family. And instead of being supportive, you're interrogating me like I'm on trial. I'm scared too, okay? I'm terrified about having another baby, about the money, about whether I can provide enough. But I'm dealing with it. I'm handling it. I'm doing something instead of crying and panicking. He hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in my hand, and stared at the voice memos app. The recording was there, 7 minutes and 42 seconds. I hit stop, saved it, labeled it. Scott admission November 24th. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope ignite in my chest. I had his admission on recording. He'd confirmed the loan existed. He'd confirmed he'd used my name. He'd even admitted to the fake business by saying, "We're married, what's mine is yours." It wasn't a full confession, but it was something. It was evidence, real documented evidence that he was lying to me. I could use this. I could show this to a lawyer, to the police, to Priority Financial. I could prove that I didn't apply for that loan, that Scott did it without my knowledge or consent. I backed up the recording to my email, to cloud storage, to 3 different places. Then I went about my day, playing the role of the obedient wife, counting down the hours until I could figure out what to do with this information. Scott came home from work at 7:30 that evening. I was making dinner, spaghetti with meat sauce, his favorite. "Hey babe," he said, kissing my cheek. "I'm sorry about this morning. I was stressed from the workout and I shouldn't have snapped at you." "It's okay," I lied. "No, it's not okay. You're carrying my son. You're taking care of our daughter. You deserve better than me being short with you." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, hands on my pregnant belly. "I love you, Em. You know that, right? I just get overwhelmed sometimes with the pressure of being the provider." "I know," I said, stirring the sauce, my skin crawling at his touch. "Why don't you rest? I'll finish dinner." I went to sit on the couch, phone in my pocket, feeling the weight of the recording like a secret weapon. At 8:45 p.m., Scott said he needed to run to CVS to pick up his allergy medication. He'd be back in 20 minutes. The moment the door closed, I ran to my laptop to check the recording was still there, to make sure I'd really saved it, to verify that I had this evidence locked down. I opened voice memos. The file was gone, completely gone, deleted, trash emptied like it had never existed. My heart stopped. I frantically checked my email backups. Deleted. Cloud storage. Deleted. Every single backup I'd created that morning, all gone. Scott walked into the apartment 23 minutes later, carrying a CVS bag. "Got my allergy pills. You okay, babe? You look pale." My laptop was still open on the kitchen table, different window than I'd left it. The screen was at a slightly different angle than how I usually positioned it. "I'm fine," I whispered. "Just tired. You should rest. Go to bed early tonight. I'll clean up from dinner." He knew. He'd gone through my computer while I was at preschool pickup that morning, or maybe the night before while I was sleeping. He'd found the recording. He'd deleted it from every place I'd backed it up. And now he was standing in our kitchen, pretending to be the caring husband, like nothing had happened. That night, Scott climbed into bed beside me, kissed my forehead tenderly. "Love you, Em. Sorry I was harsh this morning. Just stressed about work. You understand, right?" "Of course," I whispered. He draped his arm across my pregnant belly, pulled me close, and within 10 minutes he was asleep, breathing deeply, completely at peace. I lay there in the dark, feeling his arm across me like a trap, understanding with perfect, horrible clarity. He wasn't just a liar, he was a predator. He was always 3 steps ahead of me. He had cameras or monitoring software on my computer. He knew every move I made, every piece of evidence I gathered, and I was trapped in a cage where he held every single key. I whispered to my unborn son in the darkness, "I'm so sorry. I don't know how to protect you. I don't know how to get us out of this." The baby kicked weakly in response, and I wondered if he could sense my despair, if he knew his mother was failing him before he was even born. The next morning, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The fear and rage and betrayal had built up to the point where I felt like I might explode if I didn't confront him. "You went through my laptop," I said as Scott poured his morning coffee. "You deleted my recording." He looked at me with those calm brown eyes, and for just a second, maybe a fraction of a second, I saw something flicker there. Guilt? Annoyance at being caught? Fear that his control was slipping? Then his expression shifted smoothly into concern, like a mask sliding perfectly into place. "What recording, Em?" "Of our phone call yesterday morning. You admitted to forging the loan application. You confirmed everything. I recorded it, and you deleted it." Scott set down his coffee mug with careful precision and sat at the kitchen table. He patted the chair next to him in that way therapists do when they want you to sit down for a serious conversation. "Honey, I think we need to talk about something important. Something I've been worried about for a while now." I stayed standing, arms crossed defensively across my pregnant belly. "You're 6 months pregnant," he began, his voice gentle, almost therapeutic. "Your hormones are completely out of balance right now. That's normal, that's natural, but it affects your thinking, your emotions, even your memory. I'm not imagining." Dr. Okafor mentioned the prenatal anxiety at your last appointment. She said, and I'm not trying to hurt you, I'm just telling you what she told me. She said that high levels of stress and pregnancy hormones can cause something called prenatal anxiety disorder. It can make you imagine things that didn't happen. It can make you paranoid. It can even cause false memories. My face flushed hot. "What? No, she didn't say." "She pulled me aside after your appointment 2 weeks ago. She was concerned. She said you'd been expressing a lot of worry about finances, about our relationship, about things that didn't match up with reality." "That's not what happened. Sweetie, do you remember last month when you accused our mailman of stealing our packages?" Heat rushed to my face. That had happened. 6 packages had gone missing over 3 weeks, and I'd become convinced that our mailman was taking them. I'd called the post office 3 times, filed complaints, until they had sent a supervisor to our building who'd explained that the packages were being delivered to the wrong apartment by mistake because our neighbor in 4B had a similar last name. "That was different," I said weakly. "And the month before that," Scott continued, his voice maddeningly calm and reasonable, "when you thought Lily's preschool teacher was poisoning her, you were convinced that Miss Rachel was putting peanut butter in Lily's food even though we told them about her allergies. Except we took Lily to the allergist, and she doesn't have any food allergies at all." I was being cautious. "Babe, you called the preschool crying, demanding they fire Miss Rachel. You threatened to call the police. Other parents heard you. It was a scene, don't you remember?" I did remember. And yes, it had been embarrassing when the allergist confirmed no allergies. But I'd been so sure. "And then there was Mr. Collins," Scott said quietly. "Oh God, Mr. Collins, our neighbor 2 doors down, a quiet elderly man who was an avid bird watcher. 3 weeks ago, I'd seen him on his balcony with binoculars, pointing them toward our building, and I'd become convinced he was spying on us, watching me through our windows. I'd called the police non-emergency line, reported him for harassment, for being a peeping Tom. The officers had come, had talked to Mr. Collins, had found out he was just bird watching. There was a rare species of warbler nesting in the tree near our building. They'd explained this to me gently, like I was a confused child, while neighbors watched from their doorways. "That was a misunderstanding," as I whispered. "Emily, honey, these aren't misunderstandings. This is a pattern. Dr. Okafor said that prenatal anxiety can manifest as paranoid thinking, false memories, a sense that people are lying to you or hiding things from you even when they're not. She said it's a documented condition and it's treatable." She didn't say that to me because she didn't want to scare you. She told me privately, husband to husband, so I could watch out for you, so I could help you. That's why she recommended therapy. She recommended prenatal yoga. She recommended therapy, Emily. Cognitive behavioral therapy specifically for prenatal anxiety disorder. She gave me the name of a psychiatrist who specializes in perinatal mental health. Do you want me to get you the card? It's in my wallet. I felt reality shifting under my feet like sand. Like I couldn't trust my own memory of what Dr. Okafor had said, what had happened, what was real and what wasn't. I know I recorded you, I said, but my voice was weak now, uncertain. Do you though? Are you absolutely sure? Or is it possible that the stress and the hormones are making you think you did something that you didn't actually do? From her bedroom, Lily started crying. She'd had a bad dream. Scott stood immediately, walked past me, picked her up with such tenderness and love that it made my chest ache. He was such a good father, so patient with her, so gentle. Shh, princess, daddy's here. Everything's okay. Mommy's just tired from the baby. She's not feeling well. But daddy's here, and everything's going to be okay. He looked at me over Lily's shoulder as he rocked her, and his eyes were different now. Cold, calculating, dangerous. A silent warning. Don't push this. Don't make me do something you'll regret. I spent the rest of that day in a fog, questioning everything. My memory, my sanity, my judgment. Maybe he was right. Maybe the pregnancy hormones were affecting my thinking more than I realized. Maybe I was imagining things that weren't real. But the bank statements were real. The bills were real. The Miami boarding pass was real. Chloe's Instagram posts were real, weren't they? By evening, I'd convinced myself I was losing my mind. 3 days later, something happened that made me realize I wasn't crazy after all. I was at Grove Street Coffee, treating myself to a $4 latte with oat milk, a tiny rebellion against Scott's insistence that we cut back on unnecessary expenses. Lily sat at the table with her coloring book, happily drawing purple dinosaurs and singing the Frozen theme song under her breath. A woman approached our table. She looked professional. Gray blazer, neat hair, expensive leather briefcase. But there was something nervous and frantic in her eyes. Emily Walker? I looked up, confused. Yes? My name is Linda Morrison. I used to work with your husband. I was senior accountant at Hartwell and Pierce Financial. She glanced around the coffee shop like she expected someone to be following her. Can I sit down, please? I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Every instinct told me to say no, to protect myself from whatever this was. But something in her eyes, desperation, fear, a kind of haunted urgency, made me nod. Linda sat down, pulled a folder from her briefcase, and slid it across the table toward me. I was fired 6 weeks ago, she said, her voice low and quick, like she was running out of time. Officially, they called it department restructuring, said they were eliminating my position to cut costs. But that was a lie. I was fired because I discovered something. Something big. My stomach tightened. What kind of something? Your husband and his boss, Marcus Donnelly, have been running an expense fraud scheme for the past 18 months. Maybe longer. 18 months is as far back as I was able to trace before they locked me out of the system. The coffee shop seemed to tilt around me. Linda opened the folder, showed me pages of spreadsheets and expense reports and bank transfers. They create fake client dinners that never happened. They fabricate travel expenses for business trips they never took. They submit false vendor invoices for services that were never rendered. Then they pocket the reimbursements, split them 60-40, with your husband getting the 60. How much? I whispered. Approximately $144,000 over 18 months. That's what I was able to document before they caught me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't process. $144,000. When I reported it to HR, Linda continued, her hands shaking slightly, Marcus threatened me, told me I'd lose my CPA license if I pursued this, said he'd make sure I never worked in accounting again. Then 2 days later, they fired me, and now I'm the one being investigated for the fraud I tried to report. That can't be legal. Your signature is on some of the approval forms, Emily. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Walker Design Consulting. That's the fake vendor company they created to funnel some of the money. Your name is listed as owner and creative director. Your signature is on vendor agreements, on service contracts, on payment authorizations. It's all forged, obviously. I know you didn't sign anything, but on paper, it looks like you were involved. I felt the blood drain from my face. Walker Design Consulting, the same fake company Scott had used for the loan application. He used me as a scapegoat, I whispered. He used you as his insurance policy, Linda corrected. If the scheme gets discovered, and it will get discovered, these things always do. All the evidence points to you, joint bank accounts with your husband, your name on the fake vendor company, your signature on documents. Federal investigators will assume you were in on it, that you knew, that you helped orchestrate him in it. But I didn't know anything. Can you prove that? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and damning. How do you prove you didn't know Comething? How do you prove innocence when all the evidence has been carefully constructed to make you look guilty? Linda reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small USB drive. She slid it across the table like she was passing contraband. I kept copies before they fired me. Expense reports, bank transfer records, email chains, forged signatures, everything I could get my hands on. It's all on here. I stared at the tiny piece of plastic like it was a bomb, which, in a way, it was. This proves Scott's guilty, I said. Yes, but it also shows your name on documents. If this goes to court, if federal investigators get involved, they'll look at you too. They'll investigate you as a potential co-conspirator. You're his wife. You have joint accounts. Your name is on the fake vendor company. They'll assume you had to have known. But I didn't. I believe you, Emily. I do. But belief doesn't matter in federal court. Evidence matters. And right now, there's a lot of evidence that looks bad for you. She stood up, gathered her things with shaking hands. She looked like she'd aged 10 years since losing her job. Emily, listen to me very carefully. This is all going to come crashing down soon. The FBI is already investigating Hartwell and Pierce for something else. I don't know what, but I know they've been asking questions, looking at records. When they discover the expense fraud, they're going to bring criminal charges. Embezzlement, wire fraud, possibly money laundering. And Scott is going to try to make you the fall guy. Why are you telling me this? Why are you risking? Because I have a daughter, Linda interrupted, her eyes glistening with tears. She's 28, around Chloe's age. And if someone was doing this to her, destroying her financially, setting her up to take the fall for crimes she didn't commit, I'd want someone to warn her. She touched my shoulder gently. Just once, a brief moment of human connection. You need to leave him, Emily. You need to get as far away from Scott Walker as possible before this all comes crashing down. Because when it does, he won't protect you. He'll throw you under the bus without hesitation. But I have a baby coming. I have Lily. That's exactly why you need to leave. If you're still there when federal agents show up, if you're still legally tied to him when charges get filed, you could end up in prison while your babies are in foster care. Do you understand? This isn't about saving your marriage. This is about saving yourself and your children. She looked around the coffee shop one more time, paranoid, hunted. I shouldn't even be here. If they find out I met with you, but I couldn't just let you walk into this blind. I'm sorry. I wish I could do more. I'm sorry. She left quickly, practically ran out of the coffee shop, her gray blazer disappearing into the morning crowd on Grove Street. I sat there frozen, USB drive in my hand, Lily humming beside me and coloring her dinosaurs, completely unaware that her mother's world had just shattered into even smaller pieces. I wasn't crazy. Scott wasn't just lying about an affair. He wasn't just committing loan fraud in my name. He was embezzling money from his company, and he'd spent 18 months carefully building a paper trail that would make me look like his accomplice. If I stayed, when this all came crashing down, and Linda said it would come crashing down, I would go to prison. My babies would be taken away. And Scott would probably cut some kind of plea deal, testify against me, paint me as the mastermind, and walk away with a reduced sentence while I rotted in a federal prison. I looked down at Lily, at her innocent face focused so intently on coloring, and I understood with perfect clarity. I wasn't just trapped in a bad marriage. I was trapped in an actual crime. One I didn't commit, one that would destroy me anyway. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold, the kind of November morning that promised an early winter. Scott announced over breakfast that he was taking Lily to daddy-daughter brunch at Bluestone Lane, something he did maybe twice a year, always when he wanted to look like father of the year to his coworkers or our neighbors. "You rest, babe," he said, kissing my forehead with those lips that had kissed Chloe, that had lied to me 1,000 times. "You look exhausted. Take advantage of the quiet and maybe take a nap. Growing a human is hard work." He swung Lily up onto his shoulders, and she giggled with pure joy, completely unaware of the darkness lurking beneath her father's charming exterior. After they left, I sat alone in the condo, listening to the oppressive silence. Scott's Apple Watch sat on the kitchen counter. He'd forgotten it in his rush to leave, something he almost never did. Scott was attached to that watch like it was a body part, always checking notifications, always tracking his steps and his workouts, always connected. The screen lit up with a text notification. "Chloe Bennett, we need to talk about Tuesday's appointment. I can't do this alone." My hands went ice cold. I knew his passcode, his mother's birthday, May 7th. He'd said it years ago and never changed it, probably didn't even realize I knew it. I picked up the watch with trembling fingers and entered the code. The Messages app opened, and what I found there destroyed whatever tiny fragment of my heart Scott hadn't already shattered. "Chloe Bennett, recent messages. Chloe, November 20th, 11:47 p.m. The doctor confirmed it. I'm 11 weeks. Scott, November 20th, 11:52. Okay, don't panic. We'll figure this out. I promise. Chloe, November 21st, 8:34 a.m. Figure out? You said you were leaving her. You said we'd be together. You said this baby was what we both wanted. Scott, November 21st, 8:41 a.m. I am leaving her. I will. It's just complicated right now. She's pregnant, Chloe. 6 months pregnant with my son. I can't just abandon her right now. Think about how that would look. Think about the legal implications. Chloe, November 21st, 8:43 a.m. So am I. I'm pregnant with your baby too. And mine wasn't complicated last month when you were promising me a future, when you were buying me an engagement ring, when you were talking about us getting married. The engagement ring, the Tiffany ring, $4,223. He'd bought it for Chloe, not for me, Scott. November 21st, 9:02 a.m. Baby, please, I love you. You know I love you. Let me handle Emily first. Let me get her through this pregnancy, get the baby born safely. She's high risk right now. The baby's measuring small. There could be complications. I can't leave her in the middle of a medical crisis. What kind of man would that make me? Chloe, November 21st, 9:15 a.m. Deal with it? This is your baby, Scott. Our baby. I'm not some problem you need to deal with. Scott, November 21st, 9:23 a.m. That's not what I meant. I'm sorry, I'm just stressed. I love you. I love our baby. I'll pay for whatever you need, the best OB, the best care, everything. Just give me 2 months to sort out my situation with Emily. I'm working on an exit strategy. I promise. Trust me, Chloe. November 21st, 10:04 a.m. I don't want your money, Scott. I want you. Like you promised. Like you've been promising for 8 months, Scott. November 21st, 10:11 a.m. And you'll have me. I swear to God. I'm working on it. I love you, Chloe. You're my future. Emily is my past. This is just temporary. I scrolled further back, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the watch face. Found a group chat. Marcus, Scott, Jason. Marcus, November 18th, 11:23 p.m. Dude, did you tell Emily about the Chloe situation yet? Scott, November 18th, 11:31 p.m. Hell no. If Emily finds out right now, she'll lawyer up immediately. I need to wait until after the baby's born, after her postpartum period when she's exhausted and overwhelmed and not thinking clearly. Then I'll file for divorce on my terms. Jason, November 18th, 11:37 p.m. What about Chloe's pregnancy? She's going to start showing soon. Scott, November 18th, 11:42 p.m. That one's easier to handle. I'll pay for the procedure if it comes to that. Problem solved. Marcus, November 18th, 11:45 p.m. Cold-blooded. You're talking about your own kid. Scott, November 18th, 11:49 p.m. Not cold, av 15. Practical. Emily's baby is mine. I'm legally tied to her through custody. I can't just walk away clean. But Chloe's baby, let's be honest, could be anyone's. She works with a lot of guys at the firm. Who knows? Chloe, November 18th, 11:52 p.m. appears to have been added to chat temporarily. Excuse me? Could be anyone's. I've been with you for 8 months, only you. How dare you suggest Scott? November 18th, 11:54 p.m. Babe, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry, I'm just stressed out. You know you're the only one. Chloe removed from chat by Scott. Marcus, November 19th, 12:01 a.m. You're playing with fire, man. Both women pregnant at the same time? This is going to explode in your face, Scott. November 19th, 12:08 a.m. I've got it under control. Emily suspects nothing. She's so focused on being pregnant and taking care of Lily that she doesn't pay attention to anything else. I could probably bring Chloe home for dinner, and Emily would just ask if she wanted seconds. Jason, November 19th, 12:12 a.m. What about the money situation? The loan thing? Scott, November 19th, 12:16 a.m. Already handled. Loan is in Emily's name. Company is in Emily's name. If Priority Financial comes looking, everything points to her. And with the embezzlement situation at work, if that ever comes out, it all traces back to Walker Design Consulting along. Emily's company, Emily's signatures, Emily's problem. Marcus, November 19th, 12:23 a.m. You set up your pregnant wife to take the fall for your crimes. You're either a genius or a sociopath. Scott, November 19th, 12:27 a.m. Why not both? I stood in my kitchen, 6 months pregnant, holding my husband's Apple Watch, reading messages that proved he had gotten his mistress pregnant, promised to leave me for her, offered to pay for her abortion, told his friends my baby could be anyone's, and was actively planning to frame me for multiple federal crimes. My own baby kicked hard against my ribs, as if sensing my horror, my despair, the complete and total destruction of everything I'd thought my life was. I slid down the kitchen cabinet to the floor, Scott's watch still clutched in my hand. Lily's toys scattered around me, her play kitchen, her stuffed animals, her wooden puzzle blocks, bills stacked on the counter, all overdue or unpaid, and evidence of Scott's theft. Hospital notices about my small for gestational age baby that I couldn't afford to follow up on because Scott hadn't paid our medical bills. This condo that was supposed to be our home, our safe place, now revealed as nothing but an elaborate cage. And for the first time since finding that Miami boarding pass, I completely broke. Not quiet tears, not gentle crying, but raw, ugly, breathless sobbing that came from somewhere so deep inside me that it felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside out. Howling grief for the man I thought I'd married. Desperate fear for my unborn son. Crushing shame at my own stupidity for not seeing this sooner. Rage at Scott for doing this to me, to his children, to the life we'd built together. I cried until I couldn't breathe, until my ribs ached, until my pregnant belly contracted with false labor pains from the stress. I cried until I heard Lily's voice in the hallway. "Mommy, why are you on the floor? Why are you crying?" Scott stood behind her, his face carefully arranged into concern, but his eyes were cold and calculating as he took in the scene. Me on the floor, his Apple Watch in my hand, the messages still open on the screen. "Lily, sweetie, go to your room and play for a minute," he said softly. "Daddy needs to talk to Mommy." After she left, he walked over to me slowly, deliberately, and held out his hand for the watch. "I see you've been snooping," he said quietly. I looked up at him through tears, and I saw him clearly for the first time. Not the man I'd married, not the father of my children, but a predator who had spent years carefully constructing a trap around me, and I'd walked into it willingly, blindly, stupidly. "How could you?" I whispered. "How could I what, Emily? Take care of my family? Work 70 hours a week to support us? Try to build a financial cushion for our future. You got her pregnant. According to her, I did. Doesn't mean it's true. You bought her an engagement ring. I bought jewelry for a client's wife. It was a business expense. You're framing me for fraud. I'm protecting our assets in case the loan company tries to come after us. That's what smart people do. Every answer was a lie, smooth and practiced, and he delivered them without hesitation, without remorse, without any sign that he felt even a flicker of guilt. I want a divorce, I said. Scott laughed, actually laughed. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Em, you're 6 months pregnant with no job, no income, no recent work history. You have a 3-year-old who depends on you. You're facing potential criminal charges for loan fraud. Do you really think you're in any position to leave me? He crouched down to my level, looked me dead in the eyes. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to delete whatever evidence you think you've gathered. You're going to stop snooping. You're going to focus on being a good mother to Lily and carrying our son safely to term. And we're going to get through this together as a family, the way we've always done. And if I don't, his smile was chilling, then I'll have you declared mentally incompetent. Prenatal psychosis. Dr. Okafor will testify about your paranoid episodes. The mailman incident, the preschool teacher incident, Mr. Collins, your own sister will have to admit you've been acting irrationally. I'll get full custody of Lily and the baby when he's born, and you'll end up in a psychiatric facility, drugged and alone, while I raise our children with someone who's actually stable. He stood up, straightened his shirt, picked up his Apple Watch from where I dropped it. I love you, Em, I really do. But you need to understand something. I will protect my interests. I will protect my career. I will protect my future. And if you try to get in the way of that, I will destroy you completely. He walked to Lily's room to get her, and I heard him say cheerfully, "Come on, princess. Let's take mommy out for ice cream. She's feeling wild and ice cream always helps." I sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by paws and bills and the shattered pieces of my life, and understood that I wasn't just trapped. I was in danger, real danger. And I had less than 7 weeks before my baby was born, and Scott's control over me became even more absolute. That night after Scott had fallen asleep beside me, actually had the audacity to sleep peacefully after what he'd said to me, I quietly got out of bed and locked myself in the bathroom with my phone. My hands shaking, I texted my sister Sarah. "I need help. I need to get out. He's going to destroy me." The response came 30 seconds later. "I'm coming. Hold on. I'll be there tomorrow night." I slid down the bathroom wall to the floor, phone clutched in my hand, and whispered to my unborn baby, "Help is coming. Your Aunt Sarah is coming. She'll know what to do. She'll help us. We just have to hold on a little longer." But even as I said it, I wondered if help could come fast enough, or if Scott had already won. Sarah arrived at 11:17 p.m. Sunday night, stepping out of her Uber into the cold November drizzle with a determination that made me want to cry with relief. She looked every inch the successful corporate attorney, sharp charcoal blazer, leather briefcase, designer heels, the kind of woman who walked into boardrooms and made executives nervous. At 38, my sister had built a life I'd once envied. Corner office at a major Chicago law firm, 6-figure salary, respect and power and independence. Now I just needed her to save me. "Where is he?" she asked as I opened the door. "Client dinner. Won't be back until midnight at least." Sarah stepped inside, set down her briefcase, and pulled me into a fierce hug. I broke down immediately, sobbing into her expensive blazer, probably ruining it with tears and snot and mascara. "Okay," she said, pulling back and holding me at arm's length, her lawyer's eyes assessing me like a witness on the stand. "Show me everything. Every piece of evidence you have. Every document, every screenshot, every text message. I want to see it all." We spent the next 3 hours at my kitchen table, laying it all out like we were preparing for trial. The Miami boarding pass, now carefully hidden in a manila folder. Screenshots of Chloe's Instagram posts, the infinity pool, the champagne, the sunset reflection showing Scott's face, photos of the unpaid bills, 2 inches high and growing, bank statements showing the disappearing money, the maxed credit cards, the empty accounts, The loan documents from Priority Financial, $50,000 in my name that I never applied for. Linda's USB drive with its treasure trove of embezzlement evidence, expense reports, forged signatures, bank transfers, 18 months of systematic fraud. Screenshots of the messages between Scott and Chloe, including the devastating group chat with Marcus and Jason. Everything. By 2 in the morning, Sarah had filled 3 legal pads with notes, had cross-referenced dates and amounts, had built a timeline of Scott's crimes that looked like something from a criminal prosecution. "This is financial abuse," she said finally, tapping her pen against her notepad. "Combined with the identity theft, fraud, embezzlement, and evidence of long-term deception and manipulation. We can absolutely use this." "He deleted my recording," I said, voice small and defeated. "The one where he admitted to the loan fraud. He went through my computer and erased it from everywhere I'd backed it up." "He's covering his tracks," Sarah acknowledged. "But that's actually good for us in a weird way. It shows consciousness of guilt, shows he knows what he's doing is wrong. We can use that." She leaned forward, switched into full lawyer mode. "Here's what we're going to do. First thing Monday morning, we file for emergency custody of Lily based on financial abuse and your reasonable fear for her safety. Then we file a police report about the forged loan. Get that on record officially that you're a victim, not a perpetrator. Then we get you a criminal defense attorney to handle the Priority Financial situation and a family law attorney to handle custody and divorce proceedings. I'll pay for all of it. That's not even a question or a debate. Sarah, I can't let you. You're my sister. You're carrying your second child. Your husband is actively setting you up to take the fall for federal crimes. I'm not letting you go through this alone." Tears streamed down my face. "Thank you. God, thank you." "We document everything tonight," she continued, already making a new list. "We organize all your evidence. We make multiple backups in places Scott can't access. We prepare detailed statements. Then Monday morning, we hit him with everything at once before he can prepare a defense or hide more evidence." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope blooming in my chest like a flower pushing through concrete. Sarah was smart, powerful, competent. She'd saved corporate clients from SEC investigations, had won cases against Fortune 500 companies. She could save me. She would save me. We worked until 4 in the morning, organizing evidence, making lists, building strategy. Sarah's legal training created order from chaos, turned my scattered fears into a coherent plan of action. "We'll file first thing Monday morning," she said again, writing it down like a commandment. "Emergency restraining order based on financial abuse and reasonable fear of further harm. Custody petition citing Scott's fraudulent activities and his creation of an unsafe financial environment for Lily. Police report for the loan fraud. Everything hits at once. We overwhelm him with legal action before he can react." When I finally crawled into bed beside my sleeping daughter at 4:47 in the morning, I'd been sleeping in Lily's room since the Apple Watch discovery. I felt for the first time like maybe I had a chance of surviving this. Sarah was here. I wasn't alone anymore. We had a plan. Tomorrow we would start fighting back. Tomorrow everything would change. I should have known that hope was dangerous. I should have known Scott was always 3 steps ahead. Sunday morning, 6:47 a.m., someone pounded on our front door so aggressively that it woke both Lily and me. Sarah jerked awake on the couch where she'd been sleeping for maybe 90 minutes. "What the hell?" she muttered, standing up and reaching for her phone. I stumbled to the door in my pajamas, 6 months pregnant and barely conscious, and opened it without thinking. 2 men in dark suits stood in our hallway. One was thin and severe-looking with wire-rimmed glasses. The other was built like a linebacker and had a folder tucked under his massive arm. "Emily Catherine Walker?" My heart stopped. "Yes?" "We're with Priority Financial Collections Division. You're 47 days past due on loan account number 5508-2291 in the amount of $50,000 principal. We're authorized to begin asset seizure procedures and legal collection actions." The hallway tilted around me. "I never took out that loan," I said, my voice coming out as barely a whisper. "My husband forged my signature. This is identity theft." The thin one pulled out paperwork. Ma'am, your signature is on file with Priority Financial. We have verification. We have your driver's license scan. We have photos of you holding your identification for identity verification purposes. We have your employment documentation. Everything was properly verified through our standard underwriting process. But it wasn't me. Ma'am, regardless of your claims, the debt is legally yours. You have 72 hours to remit payment of $50,000 principal plus $4,273 in accumulated interest and late fees. Total amount due, $54,273. If payment is not received within 72 hours, we will initiate legal proceedings, including wage garnishment, asset seizure, and civil litigation. The linebacker handed me an envelope. You're also being served with legal notice, federal investigation into fraudulent loan application practices. You're required to appear in Federal District Court of New Jersey on February 12th at 9 a.m. for a preliminary hearing. Failure to appear will result in a warrant for your arrest. My knees actually buckled. Sarah caught me before I hit the floor. This is harassment, Sarah said, her lawyer voice cutting and sharp. My client is a victim of identity theft and fraud. You've been notified of this. Continuing collection activities constitutes violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Ma'am, you're welcome to dispute the debt through proper channels. Instructions for dispute process are included in the documentation. Good morning. They left. Sarah tore open the envelope with shaking hands, and I watched the color drain from her face as she read. They're charging you with loan fraud. They're saying you falsified income information, created a fraudulent business entity, submitted false employment documentation, and knowingly made material misrepresentations to obtain $50,000 with intent to defraud the lending institution. But Scott did all that. They have your signature, your social security number, your driver's license scan, photos of you. They have documentation showing you as the owner and creative director of Walker Design Consulting, with business bank statements showing consistent monthly revenue. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. He set me up. He really set me up. We knew he did. But this, Sarah's hands were shaking now. This is worse than I thought. This is ironclad. Every piece of identity verification they require, he provided using your real information. Any defense attorney is going to have a hell of a time proving you didn't do this. Then we heard it. Scott's car pulling into our building's parking garage. He's here, I whispered. He's early. He wasn't supposed to be back until this afternoon. The door opened. Scott walked in wearing his gym clothes, face flushed from a morning workout, coffee from Starbucks in his hand. He saw the collector's car still pulling away outside, saw me and Sarah standing in the living room with the legal papers, saw Lily peeking out from her bedroom doorway, confused and scared. His expression went through 3 phases in rapid succession: surprise, calculation, then something cold and dangerous. What was that about? He asked, his voice deceptively calm. Sarah stepped forward, and I could see her preparing to tear into him. You know exactly what that was about, you piece of... But Scott's face changed completely. The mask dropped. No more pretense of the loving husband, the concerned father, the stressed provider. Now I saw what Linda had warned me about, the predator underneath. Sarah, you need to leave, right now. This is between me and my wife. I'm not leaving her alone with a criminal. Scott pulled out his phone with deliberate calm, swiped a few times, then turned it to show us a video, security footage, from inside our condo. Timestamp, yesterday afternoon, while Scott was supposedly getting his hair cut. The video showed Sarah and me at the kitchen table, going through Scott's Apple Watch, looking at his messages, taking photos of his private communications with our phones. That's evidence tampering, Scott said, his voice deadly quiet. You, a licensed attorney, officer of the court, helped your sister illegally access my private electronic communications. That's a federal crime, Sarah. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. You could be disbarred for this. You could face criminal charges. I'd be entirely within my rights to report you to the Illinois State Bar Association and to federal authorities. Sarah's face went completely white. You had cameras installed? I protect my property and my privacy, perfectly legal in my own home. He swiped to another screen, showed us a document. I also filed for emergency custody of Lily this morning. 6:37 a.m., submitted to Family Court of Hudson County, citing Emily's documented mental instability, prenatal anxiety, paranoid episodes, false accusations, and citing outside interference from you, Sarah, as creating an unsafe and volatile environment for my daughter. He turned the phone to show us. Filed, emergency custody petition, Walker vs. Walker preliminary emergency hearing is tomorrow, Monday, 9 a.m. Judge James Kowalski already reviewed my petition and supporting documentation and granted preliminary review based on demonstrated immediate risk to the minor child. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't process what was happening. Then Scott delivered his final devastating blow. Oh, and Emily, Dr. Okafor's office called on Friday. I meant to tell you, but it slipped my mind with everything going on. They've canceled all your remaining prenatal appointments until you settle your outstanding balance of $3,217. They also mentioned, and this is concerning, that the ultrasound from your last visit 3 weeks ago showed the baby measuring small for gestational age, in the 15th percentile for growth. They want you to come in urgently for a follow-up ultrasound and consultation with a maternal fetal medicine specialist. They've been trying to reach you. You should really check your voicemail more often. His tone was casual, like he was mentioning the weather, but his eyes were cold and sharp and victorious. My hand flew to my pregnant belly. What? What do you mean measuring small? Check your phone, babe. You have 3 voicemails from Dr. Okafor's office, all marked urgent. Or were you too busy conspiring with your sister to care about our son's health? He picked up his gym bag. I'm going to take a shower. Then I think we should all have a rational conversation about what's best for this family. Sarah, you're welcome to stay for that conversation. But if you continue to encourage Emily down this destructive path, I'll have no choice but to protect myself and my children legally. He walked to the bathroom and closed the door. We heard the shower turn on. Sarah and I stood frozen in the living room. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, checked my voicemail. 3 messages from Dr. Okafor's office. The first one from 4 days ago. Hi, Emily. This is Nurse Sharon from Dr. Okafor's office. We wanted to follow up about your ultrasound results from your appointment on November 16th. Baby is measuring in the 15th percentile for gestational age, which is considered small. Dr. Okafor would like you to come in for a detailed ultrasound with our maternal fetal medicine team to make sure everything is okay. Please call us back to schedule as soon as possible. Second message 2 days ago, more urgent. Emily, this is Sharon again. We really need you to call us back. Dr. Okafor is concerned about the baby's growth and wants to see you this week for a detailed ultrasound and consultation. Also, I wanted to let you know that your account is currently past due and we'll need payment of at least $1,000 before we can schedule any additional appointments. Please call us. Third message, yesterday morning. Mrs. Walker, this is the billing department. Your account has been sent to collections for the outstanding balance of $3,217. All appointments have been canceled until this balance is resolved. If you're experiencing financial hardship, we have assistance programs, but you need to call us to discuss options. We're concerned about your baby's health and we want to help, but we need to hear from you. I'd been so focused on Scott's lies, on the affair, on the loan fraud, on Linda's warnings, that I'd missed 3 urgent calls about my baby's health. My baby was in danger, and I couldn't afford to see a doctor. Sarah's voice was shaking. If he reports me for evidence tampering, I could lose my license. I have student loans. I have a mortgage. I know, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I can't afford to. I know. Go, before he destroys you too. I didn't mean, Sarah, please, just go, before this gets worse. She left 30 minutes later, crying, apologizing, promising she'd help however she could from Chicago. But she couldn't risk her entire career, her entire livelihood. She was sorry. She was so sorry. I stood alone in my living room after she left. Scott emerged from the shower, smelling like expensive soap, hair perfectly styled, looking completely relaxed and refreshed. Lily still hiding in her bedroom, sensing something terrible was happening, even if she didn't understand what. Me, 6 months pregnant with a baby who was measuring dangerously small, who needed urgent medical care I couldn't afford. Facing federal fraud charges for crimes I didn't commit. Facing a custody hearing in less than 24 hours that I was going to lose because I had no lawyer, no money, no evidence that wasn't illegally obtained, and a documented history of paranoid episodes. I put both hands on my pregnant belly, felt weak, fluttering kicks, and whispered, "He's going to take everything. Lily, you, my freedom, my entire life." This was absolute rock bottom. There was no way out. Scott had won. That night, after Lily was in bed and Scott was supposedly asleep, I sat in the dark living room with my phone, staring at nothing, trying to figure out how to survive the next 24 hours. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "I'm sorry I left. I'm so sorry. But I found something. Call me from a phone he can't monitor." I waited until I heard Scott snoring from the bedroom. Then I crept out of the apartment, down to the parking garage, and used the payphone by the building's lobby, one of the last payphones in Jersey City, kept for emergencies. Sarah answered on the first ring. Listen carefully. My firm has a London office. I worked there for 2 years on a cross-border merger case. I still have contacts there. Good contacts. What does that have to do with? The UK doesn't extradite for civil debt fraud, only for serious criminal charges. And even then, there are protections. If you can get there, if you can claim asylum based on documented domestic financial abuse and emotional manipulation, you might have a chance. My heart started beating faster. "Sarah, I can't afford a plane ticket, much less. I have $22,000 in savings," she interrupted. "I'm also withdrawing $15,000 from my 401k. I'll pay the 10% early withdrawal penalty. I don't care, $37,000 total. It's enough for tickets, first month's expenses in London, legal fees for asylum petition." "Sarah, that's your entire retirement. You're my little sister. Fuck retirement. If you stay here, Scott will destroy you. He'll take your kids, he'll send you to prison, he'll ruin your life completely. This is your only option." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry I couldn't help you in person. I'm sorry I had to leave, but I'm not abandoning you. Are you in?" I thought about tomorrow's custody hearing that I'd lose, about the federal fraud charges, about my baby measuring dangerously small because I couldn't afford medical care, about Scott's cold, calculating eyes promising to destroy me if I fought back, about Lily and my unborn son, and what would happen to them if their mother went to prison. "Tell me the plan," I whispered, and Sarah did. Sunday night, 11:47 p.m. I sat in Lily's bedroom with the door locked, watching her sleep, while Sarah's voice came through my burner phone in whispered instructions. "Book tickets to London Heathrow, one way. Use your real names. If you use fake documents, that's actual kidnapping. And they'll extradite you for that. But taking your own child out of the country when there's no custody order? That's legal. Messy, but legal." Scott filed for emergency custody. Has a judge signed an order? Has it been granted and entered into the system? He said preliminary review. That's not the same as a granted order. Until a judge actually signs a custody order restricting your travel, you have every legal right to take Lily wherever you want. You're her mother. Both parents have equal rights until a court says otherwise. I wrote all this down in tiny handwriting in the back of Goodnight Moon. You leave tomorrow morning, Monday. Make it look normal. Say you're taking Lily to preschool. Pack one small suitcase, nothing that would look suspicious. Go straight to Newark Airport instead of Little Scholars. He'll know something's wrong when preschool calls. By then you'll be through security. He can't stop you once you're through security unless he has a court order, which he won't have for at least another 12 hours. Even if he rushes to the airport, he'll be too late. What about you? Won't you have to show up to the custody hearing tomorrow? I'll be there. I'll tell the judge you had an emergency hospitalization, severe cramping, possibly preterm labor. I'll say you went to Jersey City Medical Center. By the time they verify you're not there, by the time anyone figures out what's really happening, you'll be in the air over the Atlantic. Sarah, this sounds like kidnapping. It's not kidnapping if there's no custody order. It's not kidnapping to take your own child and visit family in another country. Millions of single parents do it every year. The fact that you're not planning to come back, Scott will have to prove that in family court, and by then you'll have filed for asylum based on financial abuse, and the UK family courts will have jurisdiction to decide what's best for Lily and your baby. She paused. I talked to a family law specialist tonight. She confirmed if you can get to the UK and file for asylum before Scott gets a restraining order or custody order entered into the system, you'll have legal protection. The UK takes domestic abuse very seriously, especially financial and emotional abuse. With the evidence you have, the forged loan, the embezzlement scheme, the affair, his threats, you have a real case. What about the fraud charges? Won't they extradite me for that? The UK doesn't extradite for civil debt disputes. The priority financial situation is technically civil, not criminal, until you're actually indicted. If they try to pursue criminal charges, we'll fight the extradition by showing you were a victim of identity theft, not a perpetrator. We have Linda's USB drive showing Scott's pattern of fraud. We have his own messages admitting to the scheme. I closed my eyes, feeling tears slip down my cheeks. Once you're in London, Sarah continued, you'll meet James Rutherford. He's a family law barrister I worked with during my time there. One of the best. He's already agreed to take your case pro bono as a favor to me. He'll file your asylum petition, handle any extradition requests, and fight for permanent custody of Lily and your baby. How do I even... I'm booking your tickets right now while we're on the phone. British Airways, Flight 178, departs Newark at 12:35 p.m., arrives Heathrow 7:25 a.m. London time. Cost for you and Lily, $4,870. It's done. I'm using my credit card. Don't argue. Sarah, I'm also overnighting you $8,400 in cash via FedEx. It'll arrive at your building's front desk by 10 a.m. tomorrow. That's for immediate expenses once you land. I'll wire the rest of the money to James Rutherford's firm's client trust account. He'll manage it for you, pay your rent, handle your expenses while you get settled. I was crying now, silent sobs that shook my whole body. You're giving me your entire life savings. You're giving me the chance to save my sister and my niece and my nephew from a sociopath. That's worth infinitely more than money. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry I had to leave yesterday. I'm sorry I couldn't stay and fight with you. But I won't let you go through this alone. I won't let Scott destroy you. What if he comes after you? What if he reports you for the evidence tampering? Let him try. I'll claim I was gathering evidence for a potential civil lawsuit on your behalf. Attorney-client privilege. By the time any investigation happens, you'll be safely in London and I'll have plausible deniability. Don't worry about me. Worry about getting yourself and those babies to safety. We spent the next 2 hours going over every detail. What to pack, what to leave behind, what to say at airport security, what to do if Scott showed up, how to handle Lily's questions, who to call once I landed, emergency contacts in London, backup plans if something went wrong. Sarah had thought of everything. At 2:16 in the morning, she said, one more thing. Once you're through airport security tomorrow, once you're safely in the departure area, turn off your phone and throw it away. Don't just power it down. Actually throw it in a trash can. Scott probably has tracking software on it. Don't give him any way to find you. Okay. And I love you. You're the strongest person I know, even if you don't feel strong right now. You can do this. You will do this. For Lily, for your baby, for yourself. I love you too, I whispered. After we hung up, I sat in the dark watching Lily sleep, one hand on my pregnant belly, and whispered to my unborn son, tomorrow we run. Tomorrow we escape. I know you're small and struggling, but hold on just a little bit longer. Once we get to London, once we're safe, I'll get you the medical care you need. I promise. Just hold on. The baby kicked weakly, and I chose to believe he understood. I didn't sleep at all that night. Just packed a single small suitcase in the dark, choosing only essentials, making sure nothing looked suspicious, and waited for morning. Sunday night, 11:47 p.m. Sarah's voice came through my burner phone. My firm has a London office. I worked there 2 years ago. I still have contacts. What does that have to do with? The UK doesn't extradite for civil debt fraud. If you claim asylum based on documented abuse, you might have protection. My heart raced. With what money? I have 22,000 in savings. I'm withdrawing 15,000 from my 401k. Enough for tickets and expenses. Sarah, that's your retirement. You're my sister. Are you in? We planned every detail. Book tickets to London Heathrow under real names. Using fake documents would be actual kidnapping. Leave Monday morning. Pretend it's a normal preschool day. Go straight to Newark Airport instead. Until a judge signs a custody order, Sarah explained, you have every legal right to travel with Lily. You're her mother. Monday, 6:15 a.m. I moved through our apartment like a ghost, packing one small suitcase. Lily's clothes, my maternity outfits, her stuffed lamb, hidden in the diaper bag, both passports, Linda's USB drive, $8,400 cash, printed tickets. 7:23 a.m. Scott emerged from the bedroom, scrolling his phone. Taking Lily to school early, I said, voice steady. Thanksgiving projects. He nodded absently. I've got the custody hearing at 9. Should be straightforward. My heart pounded. See you tonight. Can you grab milk on the way home? Sure. The door closed behind us. Last time I'd ever see him. 8:47 a.m. Newark Airport, British Airways counter. London Heathrow, one way. The agent checked our passports. You're 6 months pregnant. Are you cleared for travel? My heart stopped. Actually, you're at 27 weeks. Our policy requires a medical clearance at 36 weeks. You're fine. Relief flooded through me. 9:30 a.m. Security checkpoint cleared. Even if Scott discovered what was happening now, he couldn't reach us beyond this point. 10:15 a.m. Sitting at gate C-74. I turned on my phone one last time. 23 missed calls from Scott. Messages growing frantic. Checker 9:37 a.m. Where are you? 9:42 a.m. Little Scholar says Lily never arrived. 9:51 a.m. I'm tracking your phone. You're at Newark Airport? 9:55 a.m. If you get on that plane, I will destroy you. 10:15 a.m. I'm on my way to stop you. My hands shook violently. He was coming. I powered off the phone, threw it in the trash, walked back to the gate. 11:05 a.m. British Airways, Flight 178 to London, now boarding families with small children. I picked up Lily, grabbed our bag. Then I heard it. Emily! I turned. Scott was there. Scott sprinted through Terminal B, face red with rage. But he was on the wrong side. I'd already passed security. A glass wall separated us. That's my wife. She's kidnapping my daughter, he shouted. TSA agents converged. Sir, do you have a boarding pass? No, but she's taking my child. You can't be here without a boarding pass. Scott showed them his phone. I filed for emergency custody this morning. An agent checked the system. Sir, there's no active custody order in our database. Without a signed court order, she has legal right to travel with her child. Scott ran to the British Airways counter. I need a ticket to London. That flight, right now, the agent typed. Sir, that flight is fully booked. I don't care what it costs. He threw credit cards on the counter. First card, declined. Second card, declined. Third card, declined. That's impossible. Scott's hands shook. His phone rang. Marcus, I need you to wire me $3,000 right now. Marcus's voice echoed through the speaker. Get down. The FBI arrested me this morning. My accounts are frozen. I'm fucked. And you're next. Don't call me again. Click. Scott's face went pale. He ran back to security, desperate. Please, that's my daughter. Port Authority police arrived. Sir, we've checked the system. No warrants, no custody orders, no travel restrictions on Emily Walker. She's legally permitted to travel. But I'm the father. Without a court order, we cannot stop her. Scott pressed against the glass wall, shouting to Emily, please, I'll fix everything. I swear, please don't take her. I love you. For 1 second, I saw the man I'd married 7 years ago. Then I remembered. That man never existed. I mouthed through the glass, You should have thought of that before. I turned, walked down the jetway. The door closed, his voice cut off. We were gone. British Airways Flight 178. The plane lifted off. Below us, Scott stood at that glass wall, probably still screaming, still threatening, but he couldn't follow. His cards were declined. Marcus had betrayed him. The FBI was coming for him. Lily fell asleep before cruising altitude. I held her hand, looked at the clouds, and whispered, "We made it." For the first time in weeks, I cried, not despair, relief. 7 hours later, we landed at Heathrow. James Rutherford waited at arrivals. "Welcome to London. Let's get you somewhere safe." The Camden flat was small but perfect. 2 bedrooms, toys arranged, crib waiting. "Sarah's firm is covering rent while we sort your asylum petition," James explained. "This address isn't public. Scott can't find you. You're safe." That word, safe, made me cry again. "The UK doesn't extradite for civil debt," James continued. "We'll file asylum based on financial abuse. You have strong evidence." Back in New Jersey, Scott's world collapsed. Tuesday, FBI raided Hartwell and Pierce. Marcus arrested, immediately cooperated. Revealed Scott masterminded the embezzlement and that Marcus had secretly stolen Scott's share weeks ago. When Scott needed money at the airport, his accounts were already empty. Tuesday evening, FBI arrested Scott, charged with wire fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, 15 to 25 years potential sentence. Wednesday, Chloe gave investigators everything: texts, emails, Scott's admissions about framing me. Thursday, Priority Financial dropped all charges against me after Linda provided proof Scott forged everything. They filed charges against Scott instead. Friday, local news ran the story. Scott's perp walk went viral. He lost everything. 18 months later, spring in London. I sat on Primrose Hill with Lily, now 5, thriving in school, and Noah, my 18-month-old son, healthy and laughing. I looked different. Shorter hair, no makeup, simple clothes, but peaceful. My life was modest but stable. Freelance graphic designer making £2,800 monthly. Small flat in Islington, Lily in primary school, Noah in part-time nursery, weekly therapy, asylum granted 6 months ago, divorce finalized, Scott serving 8 years in federal prison. "Mummy, can we get ice cream?" Lily asked. Noah toddled into my lap. I kissed his head. "Mummy, where's Daddy?" Lily asked. "Daddy made bad choices and hurt people. He has to stay away. But you're safe and loved. Always." "Okay," she nodded, satisfied. A man jogged past with his daughter. "Beautiful morning." "It is," I agreed. "I'm David. Maybe see you around?" A year ago, this would have terrified me. Now, after therapy, I knew. Not every man is dangerous. Maybe I said meaning it. My phone buzzed. Job offer, £4,500 monthly retainer. Real income, real stability. I didn't respond immediately. Just lay back, let my children climb on me. Lived in this moment. People ask if I'm dating. Not yet. Maybe someday. People ask if I forgive Scott. Never. People ask if I regret leaving. Not for a single second. I don't have the life I planned. No suburban house, no intact family, no fairy tale. But I have something better. Freedom. My children, safe and loved. Myself back. Peace or peace. Scott thought leaving him meant I'd have nothing. He thought he'd destroyed me. He was wrong. The bravest thing I did wasn't staying to fight. It was recognizing some battles can't be won from inside the cage. It was packing quietly and flying to a country he couldn't afford to follow me to. He built a cage with lies and money and fear. But he forgot, a mother protecting her children isn't trapped. She's just getting started. I whispered to my children, to myself, to the universe. We made it. We're safe, we're free, and we're never going back. The London sky stretched above us, full of possibilities. Everything was going to be okay.